Okay, do we overclassify? Are we sharing enough information? An interview with somebody from 2004.
Maybe we should ask about that Pfizer memo and whether they're classifying too much.
Look, this just reminds me of I think it was 2010 interview between John Perry Barlow from the EFF and John Negroponte. And yes, John Negroponte, the war criminal, ex-US ambassador to Iraq and ex-US ambassador to the US UN mission, which is the NSA's mission, the US government's mission to the United Nations.
Yeah.
And in it, actually, interestingly, even John Negroponte admitted that they overclassify. That they overclassify government documents. And Snowden famously said, you know, if he made plans for lunch, it was classified. So, do you want to read through it, Elizabeth? And I'll just soak it in and see what I can.
Yeah, just scroll down to the first paragraph, like just have the top of the screen at the top of it. Yeah, Chief of SIGINT Policy, Congressional Issues and Intelligence Security, talks about classification issues, information sharing, and more. Then the document itself begins, what is the most memorable experience you've had during your career? And then the answer is, certainly one of the most memorable would have been a trip I took to Moscow in 1985 when I was on the staff of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Oh man, it's Russian collusion. Okay, several of us, including George Tenet, who later became DCI, and Keith Hall, who went on to become director of the NRO, were looking into the bugging of the new American embassy in Moscow and the allegations of consorting with the KGB by some of the Marines stationed at the embassy. It was a real eye-opener to the world of US global intelligence operations and congressional oversight. Seeing things firsthand always provided invaluable perspective into some very complicated issues. If you would change one thing in the agency, what would it be? And the answer is, one of the things I would worry about is overclassification of information. We certainly have come a long way from the no such agency days, but I think we are unrealistic at times about what information we try to protect from public disclosure. Make no mistake about it, we have to protect our core secrets, our SIGINT and information assurance sources and methods. But if we continue to insist on classifying information which has already become known to our adversaries or for which disclosure would cause little or no harm to national security, we risk losing control over the really sensitive stuff. The congressional committees investigating the attacks of September 11, the 9/11 Commission, and the Senate Intelligence Committee have all complained the NSA overclassifies too much information. My worry is that a consensus is building in Congress that they need to take action to deal with this problem. Trust me, we don't want that. We need to address this issue so that the solution is one of our creation, not one that is imposed on us from the outside. Question, what is the most exciting project for the future that your organization is currently working on? Answer, information sharing. This is one of the most important, if not the most exciting thing going on at the NSA across the intelligence community, particularly since 9/11. We know about this, Transformation 2.0. Agency has been under pressure from Congress and other community organizations to share more SIGINT in order to help connect the dots. Some in the community believe that our attitude is, we will tell you what you need and we must get this right. We have to move from a climate of need to know to one of need to share without compromising SIGINT sources and methods in the process. This is a complicated issue involving statutory requirements, executive orders, policy, and yes, politics. From the director on down, there is a lot going on with this issue. And again, we must get this right. If we fail, someone else, whether it's Congress, DOD, or the DCI, will fix it for us, and we will have to live with the consequences. Next question. What was your first job at the agency? It says, for all practical purposes, I had two first jobs at the NSA. I worked NSA the first time in 1982. After 6 years with the Public Health Service, I worked in the old N2 Finance and Manpower Organization, keeping track of billets and later putting together congressional budget books. In 1985, I resigned to join the staff of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence as the budget monitor for all of NSA's programs. I left the committee in 94 and returned to the NSA. My first job at NSA was on the Senate team, in the Legislative Affairs Office. That job afforded me the opportunity to utilize the experience I had gained working on Capitol Hill to help the agency's senior leaders to develop a successful strategy for dealing with the Congress. That was a particularly challenging and rewarding time in my career. So does that mean that he was basically a lobbyist of the NSA for Congress? Is that what
There's
he's saying?
so much in this document that I'm actually exchanging laptop power to put my lighting back on so that I can just jump on camera for a second.
Yeah, the whole the budget books bit really struck me. Putting together congressional budget.
Oh my God, like seriously, all I can say is, oh my God, this is the first document that we have looked at tonight, and it is massive. There is so much in it. It is incredible. Okay, so I'm just going to reshare screen and just take you through that. I saw like 4 different incredible things in that document, and it actually wasn't that there was Marines hanging out with KGB agents in Moscow. I didn't even think that was the most significant thing. But we're around compliance particularly. But this document just shows so much. It's really transparent look into the attitudes of the
That's what I noticed.
relationship to congressional oversight, their allergy to congressional oversight.
And that's so relevant right now with FISA. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that probably 20 times in the stream. How relevant all of this is to current situations. And no, seriously, when they kept saying, like, how many times did he say in this document, if we don't do it, they will do it for us and we won't like it? How many did he say that? Like 5 times? I mean, obviously they clearly wanted. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so from the top to the bottom, here we go. This is what I see here, and I'm going to take some screenshots too while I talk through this. Awesome.
Yeah, this is a fantastic document. I'm so glad we had that discussion earlier at the start of the stream, so that people can dive into this with a tiny bit of context. The people that are new with us.
Definitely. Right. Okay. So just going over it. One of the things I worry about is overclassification. We've come a long way from no such agency. Just to give you guys some perspective on the no such agency. One of the findings that we made in this series was we discovered that I'm not sure it was particularly in this series, but it was related to some of the discussions we had in the series. The Prime Minister of Australia did not know that Australia's equivalent of the NSA existed until 1975, which was some 25 years after the agency was established. They didn't know about the existence of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing relationship. They didn't understand that their own spy agencies were supplying data to the USA. So this no such agency thing, it wasn't until the 2000s that the initial agreement, the UK-USA agreement, which established the Five Eyes, was ever released to the public. So that's like multiple generations that have passed before the public have even understood what it is that the intelligence agencies are doing. Now, here, this entire paragraph needs to be screenshot. The Congressional Committees investigating the attacks of September 11th, the 9/11 Commission, and the Senate Intelligence Committee have all complained that NSA overclassifies too much information. My worry is that a consensus is building within Congress that they need to take action to deal with this problem. They are mandated by law to set the terms under which the NSA operate. The NSA does not have the mandate to set the terms under which the NSA operates. But this entire document is him saying that the NSA needs to set their own rules and boundaries. That is a direct violation of their charter and their premise and purpose for existence, and it is a direct violation of the requirements of the law. Oversight is there because the NSA does not work for the NSA. The NSA works for the public. The congressional overseers are the elected representatives of the public. It is their job to set the borders and boundaries of what NSA can do, what its mission is, why it does that mission, and how it can do that mission.
Article, just that paragraph is worth an entire article. And
I completely agree. Trust me, we don't want that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Who is we? We is supposed to be the public that pays for the NSA. It is supposed to act in the public interest. This is the most clear example that we've seen so far of the NSA being completely resistant to oversight that is legally mandated.
It's like I could, if I summed that up, what you're saying in about a sentence or two, it would be deep state proven. NSA is an agency gone rogue. Just forgetting the CIA a minute. This is like literally proof of the independence of these agencies from serving the public interest that they're funded by. So anyway, that's how I would
look. Kairos just said we, the shadow government. That is bingo right there.
Shadow government, deep state, whatever you want to call that cancerous entity that has eaten away at the constitutional rights of Americans and the human rights of everyone around the planet. That's exactly what we're looking at right now. So
feel free, you guys watching it in chat, feel free to scoop me on social media. You can screenshot this stuff and go tweet it, post it wherever you want, because this is major. This is massive.
When you do, if you share this on social media, which definitely you absolutely should do, please share the link for this stream, just so people can come join us if they're interested, and just use hashtag DecipherYou. That would be really
please do. Right, okay, so he doesn't trust me. We the NSA don't want that. We need to address this issue so that the solution is one of our creation. Exactly. What in the hell? Oh my God, and not one that is imposed on us from the outside. So now we might just want to remember, why is it that the 9/11 Commission exists? The 9/11 Commission exists because of failures by the intelligence agencies. Why is it that the Senate Intelligence Committee exists? The Senate Intelligence Committee exists to set the rules for operation of the NSA, that is priorities and its functions. So for them not to openly admit that they don't want a commission that is has been engaged lawfully to address the failures of the agency, and the Senate committee that has been lawfully engaged to provide oversight, to actually come up with solutions for the NSA, is horrific. It's a total and complete undermining of the entire civic process. Right, so moving along.
Exactly. Oh, complete side note, sorry. Never mind. Well, I was just going to say, I will also, if anybody wants to have the link to Susie's Steemits, I will post them in the DecipherYou subreddit. And that side note, I just thought of that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, not a problem.
Right.
I just wanted to say that while I remembered it.
This as well, particularly since 9/11, the agency has been under pressure from the Congress, which it should be, under pressure from the overseers and from other community organizations to share more intelligence in order to help connect the dots. Some in the community believe our attitude is, we will tell you what you need. We must get this right. So again, the focus is on them. We have to move from a climate of need to know to one of need to share without compromising sources and methods. This is a complicated issue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where were we? Right, if we fail, someone else, whether it's Congress, Department of Defense, or Director of Central Intelligence, will fix it for us, and we will have to live with the consequences. So once again, they are completely resistant to any external forces or mandates, or anyone setting their mandates. I mean, he even uses the word external somewhere, doesn't he? From memory. And also, since when does working at the US Public Health Service get you into the NSA? It was a bit strange. Okay, now this was the next thing I wanted to talk about. The Legislative Affairs Office. We know from studying previous documents that the Legislative Affairs Office is the office within the NSA whose job it is to interface with the overseers, to interface with the Congress. These are the people who must be consulted internally within the NSA before any reporting is done to Congress. They funnel it all through this office. So this office has a total chokehold on what information the Senate Intelligence Committee receives, or the congressional overseers receive, and they handle all of those communications. So one of the things that we know is in the law and in the compliance rules is that there are a number of circumstances where the NSA is legally obliged to inform Congress if A, B, C, D, E, F, G thing has happened. But if you are in NSA, you're not allowed to inform Congress without going through this Legislative Affairs Office. So the Legislative Affairs Office, they're like the cleaners. They're the people whose job it is to whitewash, to manage, to micromanage any information that reaches the oversight committees, and then coming back in the other way as well. So the fact that this guy worked, I assume it's a guy, we don't actually know who it was because their name is redacted, that this person was a part of that office and has come out of that office and is 100% resistant to oversight and is actually warning. I mean, this document has gone out to all of the NSA employees. So Sid Today is an internal NSA newsletter. So they are telling the entire workforce, we do not want the overseers setting our terms of engagement. We do not want the overseers telling us what to do. And they've come from this office that's responsible for interfacing with the congressional overseers. So, I mean, look, I had gained, utilized the experience I had gained. This job afforded me the opportunity to utilize the experience I had gained working on Capitol Hill to help the agency's senior leaders develop a successful strategy for dealing with the Congress. That was a particularly challenging time in my career. So this is the attitude of someone coming out of the Legislative Affairs Office, that the overseers should not be in charge of oversight, should not be setting the rules for the NSA.
Absolutely insane.
So I'm just quickly going to tweet that out because I think that's extremely significant.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I'm tweeting right now.
So they're acknowledging that these issues exist, but they are absolutely hell-bent on preventing the legislative bodies that are responsible for setting the rules, preventing them from doing so. And it's a member of their staff whose job it was to work with the oversight committees.
Absolutely.
Is the one advocating to the entire NSA staff that the oversight should not come from Congress.
Insane. Crazy. If I look a little bit distracted right this second, I'm just tweeting the live link and I'm retweeting a couple of Susie's and whatnot as we continue. So does anybody have any questions on this document or from this document? Thoughts, comments are all welcome. Yeah, Kaio said, quote, I manipulated Congress, my senior officials. I mean, I dealt with Congress. Yeah, no, and that combined with the working for the budget office is quite telling, I guess, is the nice way of putting it.
Okay, if you guys want to retweet me, I just sent a tweet of that. I've just said, incredible, NSA guy whose job it was to work with NSA overseers telling entire NSA staff that the Senate Intelligence Committee should not be allowed to set the terms for reform of the NSA.
Ridiculous.
And I cannot believe, yet again, that's the first document we've looked at tonight.
Isn't that incredible? Some nights are like that.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, please go ahead and retweet that. I'll just dump the link
Yeah,
to that tweet in chat.
awesome.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, since we're having a little bit of a slow moment, if anybody wants to, and I think I've said this before on a different stream, but for anybody who's new, we have a, like I was just mentioning before about posting Susie's statement post on Reddit, we have a Reddit sub, just Reddit/DecipherYou, and if anybody wants to find old streams or it streams on individual subjects that Fly has been wonderful enough to put together, or our articles that have stemmed from our findings, that's where you can find all of it in one spot. So even if you're not familiar with Reddit, it's just a useful resource to have all of these links in a row in one spot. So anyway, that's my side note while we're having a slow moment.
Having a furiously typing all over social media
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just wanted to fill the gap. Yeah, and if anybody is like ADD like me and needs to go do something, then please go and retweet what we've said, a couple of Susie and my tweets, or if you can tweet out the link yourself, go whatever, share on Facebook, wherever you want. But that would be helpful.
I feel like my tweet, actually, I probably missed some of the significant portions of that document, but that is still just absolutely incredible. Really, really, really amazing. So now we know the level of hostility that they have towards the overseers. And I would think that some members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, particularly on this day, would be interested to see that that is the culture. That is the culture within the NSA.
Absolutely. I agree. And so when I hear people say, oh, but they need to have FISA reauthorized in order to, help protect the citizens, this type of finding totally undermines that argument completely, and all the other findings that we've made. But I mean, this type of huge one definitely shows you that the intent is their own benefit as a monstrous, cancerous agency, not the interest of the people that they're supposed to be serving, which are embodied by the Congress and our representatives. It's appalling to see. I mean, that, to see them using public funds, taxes, individual people's taxes in this way is vomitous.
I'm actually just sending another tweet now because I just think it's so significant. I'm just quoting that, trust me, we don't want this. NSA telling its employees that 9/11 Commission and Senate Intelligence Committee must not be allowed to change NSA practices.
And one of our new names in chat that I haven't noticed before, Hope says it's about control, not protection, and I think that is absolutely correct. Like, completely 100% right. That is a really great, 5-word sum up. Yeah, and then Barbara points out that Hayden notified Diane Rourke about the fact that they did not want Bill Binney's program, which threw out information on Americans. Totally great point. And I think also, if people want to know more about that, there's the great documentary, I think it's called A Good American, that goes into that, and the program that Binney developed being thrown out for a crappier, more illegal and constitution-defying version that also benefited corporate interests. So I think, you know, if one of our good friends can post the link to A Good American, that would be awesome for anyone who's interested.
Just as you say, like, this could be an entire article, I feel like this document could almost be an entire episode. I want to contextualize it by just talking briefly about things that we found previously about oversight. So I think it was only an episode or two ago that they were talking about their new program to expand their global network. They literally want their network to encompass the entire planet.
It's true.
Hang on, I've got enough batteries, so I'll just swap out and jump on camera. Cool, I'm back. So the Global Network Forum is a Five Eyes meeting where they plan how they're going to expand their surveillance reach to the entire planet. So basically what they're doing, I said in one of my articles long ago that it's like Five Eyes collect countries like their baseball cards. So they approach countries and they say, give us all the data on your own citizens and we will share some data with you and you'll be more powerful than you are if you give us everything you have. Let us tap your cables, let us spy on your citizens, etc., etc. There's now over 100 countries that are in one way or another, to one extent or another, involved in that hideous structure. So we discovered, and there's been probably 5 or 6 different documents that have referenced the global network, and we looked at a strategy document where they were talking about the infrastructure needs that they would have, the data acquisition needs that they had to expand the global network, and they were, I can probably actually find it in my tweets and quote it for you. Specifically, NSA is one step closer to building a single integrated global self-aware self-synchronizing global enterprise. It's one of the first ones. But anyways, in this document where they're explaining to their staff why and how they're doing this, they basically outright say oversight is really important, compliance is really important. However, you will not be restricted by oversight or compliance when you work on this project to expand NSA to every country on the entire planet. It's basically literally a strategic plan for global domination. It's really nakedly, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So we already know from other documents that we've studied that the NSA can actually operate the hardware, the satellite systems, the on-the-ground equipment, spying equipment of all of these partner nations that they're in cahoots with. So what we pointed out is that there's actually no there's no legal mandate for NSA to take over the entire planet. Like if you asked the American people what is the NSA for, what is their purpose, the answer would be to keep us safe, to protect us. The answer would not be to establish a network of global control. Like, no American citizen is going to tell you that that's what the NSA is for. But the NSA is admitting in its own documents that that's exactly what it's doing. And so in this specific document, they're openly telling people, they were selling it as a transparency project. They're saying it's going to be so transparent that we'll be able to see across all of the global networks. It's going to be wonderful and it's collaborative. We're collaborating with all of these countries in the interest of transparency. But the fact that they openly stated like oversight is important, but there won't be any, was indicative of the attitude that we are now seeing openly evidenced. The significance of this document we just looked at is that they name the 9/11 Commission and they name the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Very true, very true.
So previously they hadn't. And I would disappear for 1 minute, Elizabeth, if you can pick it up.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, this is a huge document. I think that you could easily, and I've said this before about a lot of different findings that we've made, is that the findings that we've made each deserve an article, and I haven't done that yet. It's something I need to work on. Just like Susie's doing an amazing job both posting some of the but posting a summary of the individual streams on Steemit, and also making a fantastic like an annotated, not a bibliography, but an annotated list of all of the findings from the streams in the entire batch on DecipherYou, and you can find that at DecipherYou.com. And that has, I think the last one she posted was batch 3, and so at the end of each batch, she annotates every single finding in that batch, which is hours and hours and hours of work, and it's huge. But my point is that I think that some of these findings that we make that are really, really huge like this, and that a stream or two ago, the one about the NSA treating the UN as an arm of US foreign policy, things like this all deserve their own headline. They deserve to have attention just on that one individual topic. And so I think, I'm going to have to start doing that. I know Susie is always busy working on findings from these subjects, but it's definitely something that needs to happen. And I also want people to understand as well, this isn't just collaborative journalism to show you all the just the research, because that's really important and it's groundbreaking that we're doing this, but it's also to show you that an end product is made from these streams and the findings that we make in these streams, whether it's Susie's work on Steemit and DecipherYou and her own websites, or whether it's Disobedient Media posting an article on the findings in a batch or individual findings. We really do try to show you the all of the stages of journalistic endeavors. So I hope that I'll be able to start posting some articles on some individual topics, because there's so many of them, and by the time we get to the end of the stream, and by the time we're trying, sorry, not the end of the stream, by the time we get to the end of the batch, when we're trying to sum up the important things, I think some of the important stuff falls through the cracks, even unintentionally, just because it's so much. There's so much amazing content to go through. So anyway, that's just a side note from me, and I'm just going to look at chat really fast. Scrolling up. Yeah, and I think as well, like, oh, go ahead, Susie.
I was just going to say, I just sent another tweet because, it just occurred to me, in the context of release the memo and the context of the Senate Intelligence Committee today discovering some of what is being done and debating whether it should be out to the American people. This is huge. This is actually, what we've discovered is actually evidence that these agencies do not want to accept lawful oversight.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's absolutely.
And perhaps that isn't news to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Perhaps the Senate Intelligence Committee already don't trust those spies, and perhaps they know full well that, that the NSA are hesitant to accept the mandate of the committee. But this is evidence of that fact. Absolutely. And if there was ever a time for people to know and to see in the NSA's own words, I mean, the fact that the NSA published what this guy wrote is a form of endorsement. This isn't something that they can worm their way out of. They can't say, oh, that's just one person's opinion. This was published and dispatched to every NSA employee.
Absolutely.
This is incredibly significant in terms of today's news and what's happening today.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't have the first clue how to send something to the Senate Intelligence Committee, but if there are Americans watching this that are as horrified as we are, I would literally take those tweets that I just sent, steal them if you want, steal the screenshots, I don't care. Send them to all of your senators. Send them to the organizations that are supposedly, wanting to shut the 702 down and to release the memo. I've personally just sent it to WikiLeaks. I don't know if anyone's on their accounts at the moment, but hopefully they'll pick up on it and tweet it out. But you guys, if you could send it to all interested parties and let them know that we've discovered this, because it's incredibly, incredibly significant.
Yeah.
And I'll just point out that yet again, it is poking holes, and I've been battling for the last week with these Snowden trolls, these anti-Snowden trolls, right? And they're like, oh, there's nothing in the documents about the CIA. It's like, we've just been reviewing documents and stuff about the CIA, like in every episode of the series that's in the documents. And they're like, oh, there's nothing of significance in the files. Well, every single episode, we are showing files that are of incredible importance and incredible significance. So yet again, this is just one more stick on that donkey's back of pretending that there's nothing in the files, you know. It's right there. You tell nobody in this world could tell me that NSA would want what we just read to get out.
Absolutely. Well, or the CIA. But the thing is that you know, I think those people that are trolling in that sense either are well-intentioned and uninformed, and they don't know the content that we've looked at over 20, you know, how many hours of streams, or they're actually trolls. And I think definitely a few of them over the last week that I've seen, I'm thinking of one in particular, it are actually, you know, they are obviously, to me, paid trolls, because they will switch from, you know, pro NSA, anti Snowden to pro Google and pro Hillary immediately. So there's a definite trend with some of them. And so I think that's good, because it means we're doing the right things to be targeted by these assholes. So
totally. So if you guys want to tweet screenshots or whatever, you can tag us in. You can tag Elizabeth and I in when you add an image to a tweet, and we'll retweet and amplify your tweets. Also add in the hashtag DecipherYou so people can find the other content. Laurie Love, the beautiful, beautiful, amazing Laurie Love, has just picked up on it and retweeted it.
Oh, wonderful.
So that's really cool. I know he's been keeping an eye on us. He's fucking awesome. Excuse my language. He's really one of my favorite.
Yeah, no, I've been swearing, but this
to be honest.
I can't help it. It's just, you know, the Australianism comes out a little bit sometimes.
Me too.
I can't deal. But yeah, no, and stuff like the news today had me so honestly angry that it's just kind of like in the back of my brain a little bit. But yeah, no, that's amazing. Laurie has picked up on this.
How timely. How timely. First document that we looked at today, that could have been the last one from last episode. It could have not been until next week or next month. But on today, when the 702, when it's been signed by Trump, when release memo is happening, and we find that.
Absolutely incredible. Great timing. There are times when stuff like that happens, and it's, I guess, maybe the word would be synchronicitous. I don't know, whatever you want to use, but incredible finding. And it's not just the 702 reauthorization, it's also this whole Pfizer memo issue. So hugely relevant. I'm stumbling over my words. It's so huge.
I'm going to send just one more tweet and say, come learn how this planet is really run.
Yeah, really. That's a really great way to put it.
Wow, I just want to sit there and just like retweet that tweet over and over and over again so as many people as possible see it, because
I'm believe me, as we've been talking, sometimes I'm sure like when you've been off screen and I've been the only person on screen, I've been kind of sitting here staring blank because I've been tweeting and throwing on Facebook and retweeting and all of the whole thing. So if anybody that's not doing that yet, please pick up where I've left off, because I don't know about Susie, but I would like to get through a couple more documents.
I'm starting to feel like this might be a bit of a DecipherYou marathon tonight, and I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think we started
and get through the rest of the batch.
Yeah, that would be fine with me. I don't know if we can get that far, but if we get to like 220, 225, then easily next time we should be able to finish it. And I would like that.
It really depends. Like if every document is like this, will be here for 2 days, you know. But if I'm sure it won't be. I'm sure there'll be lots that we can breeze through. Okay, I will keep going, but I'm pretty stunned by that. I've shared it on everywhere. I even went on horrible Facebook and put it there.
Yeah, I'm posting it there too right now. I'm throwing in a few groups and whatnot. But
for me, I mean, like all of a sudden, like well, people are already starting to say, oh, it's not surprising that they don't like oversight.
Right. This
but
is evidence.
Having it in their own words. Exactly. This is why that finding is significant. It's not someone saying, oh, the NSA doesn't like oversight, the spies don't like oversight. It's the NSA saying they don't like oversight.
And trying to persuade the rest of the agency to avoid it. It's insane. It's incredible. and I'm going to say this one more time, but it's like, oh, sorry, oh, by the way, Susie, this is hilarious. I'm sharing a link on Facebook, and I've been temporarily blocked from performing this action after sharing it in like a grand total of 3 spots. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen to me ever. And I'm sure, I'm sure that that's for a reason, but it's kind of ironic since we were talking about censorship and social media and needing to get on different platforms earlier. I guess that's just another case in point. But yeah,
there's nothing like having the actual evidence, having the actual documents. I mean, the same thing. We already knew that. I hear that all the time about Snowden files. We already knew this. We already knew that. Yeah. No, we already thought that, but now we have it in their words, in their documents. So it's a totally different ballpark, totally different picture. Incredible. Jimmy Dore just tweeted, so I've just jumped on it. I've just hijacked the thread. I know he follows me. So
no, I'm so honored that Laurie decided to tweet about it. That's amazing.
Laurie's been great at sharing this stuff. Totally great. Okay, cool.
That's so sweet. Anyway.
Okay, let's move on. So, next document. I just got to, oh my God, I got so excited with sharing it that I totally forgot to actually add it to my notes. So,
yeah, that happens.
If you guys have been with us in previous episodes, we actually, each time we make a finding like that, we
have to stop and write about it.
Make a note.
That's part of the process.
Exactly. And make a note of the link to the document, what the significance of it is.
Yeah, and I guess while you're typing, I'll just babble a little bit about the last couple of articles we did on Disability Media that relate to DecipherYou. And I've been noticing more and more, and I hope this doesn't bother Susie at all, like just throwing this, I mean, it probably doesn't, but I've been throwing DecipherYou and just mentions of DecipherYou into lots of articles lately that I don't think I otherwise would have connected to the Snowden files or the findings of the Snowden files. But as I learn more through these streams and through the process, I see the relevance in more and more places. And so more and more of just the news articles that I write are saying, and because of the stuff that I've found with Susie Dawson, journalist, activist, and leader of the Internet Party in DecipherYou, blah, 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 then this, and this. So I hope that other people that are viewing this, whether you're new or not new to our streams, I hope that you're having a similar experience and relating some of the stuff that we find to the news that you see currently, and not just on really obviously relevant stuff like the Pfizer 702 reauthorization and not just the Pfizer memo, because it's just that it's all over the place with news happening right now. Especially also with the UN, to go back to a subject that we've covered in other streams, but not so much this current stream. But definitely when I see, interactions with the UN, I have a totally different take on it now than I would have a few months ago. I had no idea a few months ago that the NSA, the agency itself, had anything to do with the United Nations. Like, I might have thought that, a few countries, including the US, would have had sway that maybe was greater in proportion to its power in the world than it should be, but I wouldn't have thought that actual individual intelligence agencies were interfacing with the UN as a body, and that's absolutely what's going on, and I think that's really amazing. And as far as, the last article, because Kathy B just said in chat, Elizabeth's articles and a comment on YouTube as well. The last article that I did that referenced the NSA findings and just the findings we've made in DecipherYou was the article that we published on the Pfizer 702 reauthorization. and that was just talking, and it was before Trump signed it. It was just reporting that the Senate had passed it and that it was passed over to Trump to sign. And then before that, I've done a number of other articles that have referenced our findings. I'm just looking at chat right now. Yeah, and Fly mentioned, yeah, I'll use this moment to also shout out to our Patreon link. Fly posted it just now in chat. So if you're watching live, if you are interested in supporting us, not only with social media support, but also financially, you can do that very, very easily on Patreon. The link is in chat, but it's also, if you want to go look it up on a search engine, it is patreon.com/DecipherYou. And it would be really appreciated if you supported us in that way, but it's also not necessary. And if you can't afford to do that, then that's totally fine. And just tweeting, sharing, however, is hugely appreciated. So thank you for everyone who has done that this evening and over the last streams that we've done. And, the reason that we hype on that so much, and the reason that we mention, we try not to mention it too much, but the reason that we bring up subjects like Patreon, as Susie mentioned before, we are not sponsored by anyone. We don't have any support from any interest group or any corporate sponsors. When you turn on CNN, they've got like, makeup artists, they've got green screens, they've got all of this infrastructure that we absolutely don't have, because we're independent and because we are anti-establishment, and because we appreciate and want to bring you real information through findings like this without any type of bias or filter. And that's why we need your grassroots support in whatever way that means for you. So I believe Susie's still just writing up these findings for a second. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm still here. Sorry, I'm amazed. This feels like a truth party at this point.
Yeah, no, I just thought I would throw the mention of the Patreon out there at this point, just because it was a good juncture to do that. But
I'm glad you did, because I'm actually really terrible at asking for help. I'm really terrible at asking for donations. I always forget. I get so engrossed in the document, so engrossed in the findings, that I always forget to actually even mention that we have a Patreon account or anything. So that's really, really cool. I see that somebody just actually tweeted, the Justice Department at Senate floor, at House floor, what are you going to do to make sure that NSA Go and at CIA don't keep getting too damn big for their britches? And tagged in at US Supreme Court.
Wow, nice.
I would think that findings like this would be really helpful and significant for all of the organizations. I'm actually going to send it to them right now, that are supposedly like suing the NSA. You would think this would be useful in court.
Yeah.
I'm actually just going to send it to, I'm saying this should be extremely significant for this finding. This evidence should be extremely significant for EFF, Cindy Cohn. I don't know if I'm spelling her name right, so maybe I'll leave that out of it, but definitely for Fight for the Future.
Definitely. Yeah, I think Susie, if you don't mind, I will write over after we stream, and tomorrow I'll try to write a relatively short article on this, just because I think it's really newsworthy. Just saying, NSA doesn't want oversight, or just, whatever. I don't know the title yet, but something on this particular document, because I think it's huge.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's massive, and you're more than welcome. You do a great job of writing this stuff up in depth. If you guys go to DecipherYou.com, you'll see that I've got like really short descriptions of the findings of each document, but Elizabeth does these beautiful long form pieces that go a lot more in depth into each of the findings. So I definitely think that this deserves one, especially in the context of 702, and especially in the context of release them tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be a fantastic way to write it. Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. It should be incredibly helpful to anyone who's actually trying to get some not just oversight, but some accountability In fact, even I think like Transparency International, someone like that would be really, really interested in this as well. Definitely.
Yeah, I would also send it to VIPs actually. You know, Ray McGovern, Bill Binney, all of the people that have been so staunch and
yeah, that just reminds me that this one needs to. I'm just now going to send it to some more people who I know need to see this.
Well, how about also if we want to head on to some other documents, can we delegate to like maybe Fly, David, some other people that are kind of our helpers, if they can do that while we're going on, that would be amazing as well. If they know who to send out to. Yeah, Susie, we've already been streaming for 2 hours.
And we barely started.
And that's the thing too, I've noticed is that as we've gone through this batch, specifically this batch, even compared to the end of batch 3 when I joined this collaboration with you, this batch has gotten more and more interesting as we've gone through. So kind of like our rate of progress has slowed down as we've gone through, because so much more content is really relevant. It's much more difficult to skip through when all these amazing documents come up. And I cannot imagine what the next batches are going to be like if this is a trend that continues. But
I completely agree with you. Okay. That's me done on Twitter for now. It's funny because I normally like barely tweet actually.
Yeah,
our stream. I mean that to me it's evidence. Like I've literally used the word evidence in that last tweet.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And thank you to people sending it to like Consortium News and others. I can see you doing that. That is really, really, really cool, because those are definitely the types of people. I think if you want to send it to Counterpunch, that's the type of publication that I would definitely expect actually would report on it. It's really, really cool of you to do that. Thank you.